this is that people often ask, I've got a great technology, how can IFC help me? So that's actually quite a legitimate question. So I'm going to give a positive answer, but with some tempered expectations, in the sense we do have a venture group and we have a disruptive technologies group, but they have quite a limited amount of investment relative to our overall portfolio. And just to reinforce the paradox, they haven't invested very much in agri, and those investments in agri haven't done that well. So once again, we're in this kind of funny sort of space where the promise is there, we're interested, but we haven't given up, and this year we're actually working on what could be an investment sort of vehicle of some kind, yet to be defined, and I'll be working on a technical assistant to go alongside that. So I'm still interested in getting new technologies out there, but recognizing that there are some issues. And I think in terms of what we want to see is literally these things, is this actually disrupting something? I think we, like everyone else, went for the big craze of digital marketplaces and all that, and there's a lot of enthusiasm about that. The analysis kind of shows a bit now that it hasn't really fundamentally changed that much. It's matched people together, but it hasn't, what we really need is a more dramatic change. I think that's what, that's why we're interested in technology, a step change in a better direction. So I think we're interested in, is there a genuine disruption, something that actually is resulting in real change? I think the other big question is, okay, you've got a really cool idea, but is it going to scale? So that's scalability question, and that actually is a bit linked to the adoption question, but also other things come in like upfront costs and so on. And then IFC is a global organization, so we're very interested in what we call South-South, so cool ideas that can start in Africa and go elsewhere. I used to work I used to live in Addis, and we've got a wonderful story of, we did a barley supply chain digitalization program. And that started in Ethiopia and is now being replicated in India, which goes against the popular myth, which is technologies come over from Asia to Africa to be used. But I think there are still so many wonderful things that have come from Africa that could also go in the other direction, and that's a great example of that. So anyway, I think we're interested in scalability and also can things cross international boundaries. Right, that's enough of me. That's the last you're going to hear of me now. We're going to move on to the real experts, and let me just quickly whip through. On the app, you can find all sorts of interesting details about the background of these characters, including the fact that Peter, for example, is an author of 2 books. Now, you might not have known that, but you do now. You don't even have to look at the app. But if you want to find those kind of details about each of these people, you can look on the map and find out what they do when they're not sitting here in a conference with IFC. So, Penina is from the International Center for Evaluation of Development. Peter is from GS1, not GSI, as it looks like in the program. Claire Van Eyck is from Farm to Feed, sorry, not Feed Farm, Farm to Feed. And we have Nadia, who's from Equitable Climate Innovations Institute. And last but not least, we have Carmen Dalao, who is from Atlas. Right, so I think let's get going. And if you want to use a mic, we're going to have 2 rounds of questions, and then I'm going to put it out to the audience. But yeah, Penina, we'll start off with you. So you're from a kind of research background. Why don't you set the context and say, what are, given the topic, tech-driven approach to food safety, what are some of the big techs you see that can have relevance here?
Okay, thank you so much. I welcome all who will learn. So my name is Penina Limpia, as rightly introduced me. I'm a researcher at the International Center for Evaluation and Development, which is an international non-profit organization, and we are mostly in the research space, collaborating, of course, with various organizations, both public and private. And just before I go to the innovations, mostly I'm on the side of food loss and also waste, and I know several people were really interested in that during the main session. And this is really a real challenge because I just speak for Kenya, and you find that in Kenya we are really experiencing high levels of post-harvest losses. Meaning that these are losses we're experiencing from the point of harvest all the way to consumption. And this is occurring along the value chain. And therefore this means that we need to come up with ways in which we can really address these losses, which of course in turn translates to food safety. Because if the food is not well handled along the value chain, then we'll be experiencing not just food loss and waste, but also we'll be having issues of food safety along that. Therefore, for the time I've been in research, I've of course been involved in various programs in agriculture. And one thing I really appreciate is that innovations are there. So many people in the space, they are really coming up with interesting innovations. And to make it more interesting, you find that these innovations, actually most of them are locally sourced, or these are innovations which are coming from the local context. All these are innovations which are being adapted to the local context. And that really makes it very interesting. Having said that, most of my research has really been focused on coming up with innovations, specifically targeting small-scale producers in Kenya. Actually, I want to mention in East Africa because I've been working across East Africa. And my interest of the small-scale farmers, we find they are the bulk of producers in these regions. So they do a lot of production. More than 70% of the producers are small-scale farmers. And therefore, we need to come with innovations which can really help them translate, or rather, they can adopt these innovations and help them reduce food loss along the value chain. Having said that, one of the innovations I've really been piloting, and I need to mention that I've been at the research level, so most of these innovations have been piloting them, trying to see if these are innovations which are working, and if these are innovations you can be pushing out for scaling. And one of the innovations I've been really championing for is a cold innovation, a cold chain technology. And this is called the CoolBot technology. I know that most of you have heard of the CoolBot technology, but this CoolBot technology is a technology I've been championing for it both in Kenya and in Uganda, working with researchers, in collaboration with other researchers and also with small-scale farmers to see how this technology can really help farmers. And just to bring it more context, to find that these are farmers who are in areas with no electricity. So with this CoolBot technology, we find that this is a technology we need just 3 components with it. We need to have an insulated room, we need to have an AC, and then we need to have a CoolBot gadget. So the CoolBot gadget is just a small gadget which when you connect it with the normal AC, it turns an insulated room into a cold room. So how that it works is that it makes the AC, initially the normal air conditioner is made in a way that it will lower the temperature up to around 16 degrees. But when you connect it with the CoolBot technology, you find that it can lower the temperatures as low as you have set it, even up to 0 degrees. So that has really been an interesting technology, which we have been piloting with, of course, several group of farmers. We have been working with the farmer groups because, of course, it is easier to penetrate with the farmer groups. And while working with this technology, I've realized that it's really very important that you bring the technology you are inventing to the local context and to make the final users to be part of the technology. The other technology I've also been really of interest to me is on value addition. And as I mentioned in my introduction, I've been in the food, mostly in horticulture, that is fruits and vegetable space. So naturally, these are very perishable commodities. But if we can come up with technologies to do value addition to them, like processing, or just converting them into other more stable products. For example, mango. Mango is a very common commodity in Kenya. And where I come from, where I'm born, we grow a lot of mangoes. But you find the farmers are losing a lot of mangoes. So why can't we come up with technologies which will help farmers, which we can process these commodities into more stable commodities? And just to give an example of mango, from mango we can get so many commodities from mango. We can do the mango juice, we can do the mango yogurt and all that. So I've also been really in the space of coming up with value addition technologies which will help farmers to come up with more stable commodities to reduce post-harvest losses. And just before you stop me, I want to mention about, and I know my colleagues in the panel will mention about that, I've also been in the space of linking farmers with the market because they produce and they don't have access to the market. Thank you.
Okay, is there another microphone? Apparently we need to use the mic. Okay. So we're going to use the mic, okay. So we had a couple of cool technologies that are relevant to what we were talking about, the cool box and some value addition. Now Claire, next to you, Claire, is someone who's actually also working on the technology that contributes to the reduction of food loss. So Claire, maybe you can describe what you're doing and kind of what's the backstory to why did you end up doing this?
Why? The backstory. So the backstory is, so I grew up in Kenya. I used to be in management consulting. I was on a sabbatical, from consulting, wanting to go into a real business. While I was on a sabbatical, COVID hit, and then from one day to the next, farmers lost access to markets, and at the same time, a lot of people lost access to income. So the next day after the lockdown was announced, I created a GoFundMe page called Farm to Feed, where we would aggregate produce from the farms and donate this to the slums. So we did that for about 2 months, and I raised more capital than I expected, so I needed to continue. In the meantime, I was trying to find a job. When I realized that while we were doing that, that actually the problem I was solving, market access, and not having a market, was not a COVID problem. It existed way before, well long lasted. And as markets started returning, the produce I was aggregating were the broken carrots, the smaller tomatoes, things that are off spec. Because to grow an onion the size of the palm of your hand, especially in a country that's so dependent on smallholder farming, is incredibly difficult. You need to plant at the right time, you need fertilizers, quality seeds, you need sun, you need rain a lot of the time because not everyone has irrigation. You need the right skills, and in more developed countries, people go to university to become a farmer, and here it's passed on from generation to generation. It requires just a lot of skills and resources that are not always available in the smaller communities. So that's when I put back my management consulting hat, and I created a business plan and created Farm to Feed, what it is today, and made food loss commercial. So we have built, so back to what it is now, we've built an entire tech platform. Tech is central to our strategy. So every farmer, every process, every internal person, every movement that we do has a digital identity because it is an incredibly fragmented market. So it's very hard to scale because you have to get different information and different produce from all the different areas of Kenya, from individual farmers at small scale. So I see tech as central leapfrogging this agriculture space that's so fragmented to defragmentation. So tech is really central to what we do. So what we do is we aggregate the full harvest, making sure that everything finds a market, also the things that are off spec. And we find a market, we sell with a great marketing story to our customers, making sure that they understand that they're reducing methane by buying this type of produce. And we're also upcycling, meaning we're adding value to the different products so that we can increase shelf life, that we can increase margins and value for the farmers and for ag businesses in this market. And we're growing and getting some traction.
Fantastic. Okay, we're going to come back to both of you with some follow-ups, but I'm just going to get everyone to kind of set the seeds. And Nadia, you're next to Matt. Sorry, Peter, we sort of started somehow with Penina, but Nadia, sorry, I realise I'm not using the microphone. I'll take my punishment later. Nadia, so tell us about your enterprise.
My enterprise. So we are
And please use the microphone. So
we are a non-profit out of California, and we come originally from the climate space. We were in technology that actually pulls the CO2 out of the air, and we realized that the technology needs more acceptance. Also look into ways that the technology can help with more than just pulling the CO2 out of the air. In this case, we are looking at capturing the CO2 out of the air, making dry ice out of it. The dry ice would then be climate neutral. And my notes are totally different than what I'm saying. So the technology is basically built around a material that binds the CO2. So we bind the CO2 to a material, and once the material is saturated, we trigger the material to release the CO2 in a controlled environment and then collect it. From there, we move the CO2 into liquefaction. Afterwards, we have the liquefied CO2. I'm sure you all know you can use it for many things, also carbonation. And there we move it to a dry ice maker and produce the dry ice. So at this point, we have dry ice that has a cooling potential of -76 degrees. If it's used as a pay-as-you-go opportunity, it would be great to prevent food losses and methane and all these things. So it feels like a lot is repeating here. So what was the question again?
No, just to describe your technology.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yes, I think.
What do you do?
Yes.
Okay, so again, yeah, we came from the climate basis and we looked into how can we further the technology, because obviously we do need to pull CO2 out of the air, and basically looking into what applications will bring the most benefits. And my heart is always for equity. My co-mentor was the same way. So obviously we landed in Kenya. In Kenya, we are here because there are many points for Kenya, but also the 40% food loss, and then also there is locally available natural CO2 already here. So we can start the project by developing the project and the market with the farmers and seeing how the real world works, basically, while we are integrating the dark machine later into the process. Kenya is also very interesting because of geothermal, I believe at least, is consistent, renewable, clean energy. So direct air capture works really well with that type of energy. Not that we can also use solar, sure, but geothermal is very sexy kind of renewable, I think. So and going back to the technology, we're partners with air capture. The company is called Air Capture. We've been watching them for many years. We know their technology very well, and know that they will get to a point where the capture is going to be energy and cost efficient, which is a big problem right now in the industry, I have to admit. However, these guys also won the X Prize just a few weeks ago because they were the only direct air capture company that actually won it. And also why we chose them is that they produce machines that are modular and also containerized from the get-go. So this way we can just ship and install quite easily, and then we can duplicate the project in regions that are needed. And actually India was a project I've been looking at. Actually I started in India, landed in Kenya with the electric people. So that's basically the short story.
Okay, fascinating. Okay, we'll come back to more of that. So we're just going to keep, we're setting the scene now, and then round two is going to be the difficult questions. This is the easy part. So I'm going to see Afra Kiosk.
Afra Kiosk. So, hi everybody. So, Afra Kiosk is the integrated food loss and food safety solution that we started in Rwanda, and now we operate both in Rwanda and Uganda. And I'll focus on three of the kind of services that we really deliver. And the target is for farmers, for processors, and for traders. So these services can be targeted towards all three groups. The first, we're an ISO certified lab, and these are accredited nationally as well in the countries we operate in, and where we provide food safety testing for different products: maize, peanuts, sorghum, rice, cassava, coffee, milk, and mostly things like fumitosin, ochratoxin, aflatoxin, things like this, and we're continuously adding more and more testing solutions to our services. And I think one of the challenges, this is, let's say testing is a kind of traditional technology, let's say, not the digital technology, but I think where if anyone working in this sector is kind of where often testing becomes a big challenge. We send our products away for testing. The transport costs can cost a lot. You often have to DHL your goods. It can take several days to get your results back, and the testing services themselves can be very expensive. And so we're working with technologies to really deliver them much closer to the farmers and the traders at a much more affordable price and get the results much more rapidly as well. So that's That's the first service we do. And then as we started doing these, as you start building data, testing is an extremely effective diagnostics tool. Like if when you go to the doctor diagnoses you, prescribes a cure. And I think often those of us who work in agricultural value chains, we have solutions, and it's like, this is our solutions, and everybody is going to get those solutions, and what testing allows is for diagnostics. And so then you can really say, okay, for this specific group, their challenge is this, and this is the management, this is how you're going to manage that challenge. And then for maybe traders, it's a different challenge, and for millers, it's a different challenge, or whoever, for processors. So we provide training solutions on food safety, handling, and storage, but it's linked to the diagnostics, so it can be very targeted towards the specific problem that your product is having. And then finally, if you don't have, often what we're trading in these regions, we don't have full information on what we're trading. So I'm selling, let's say, stick with the idea of grain, but I don't know what quality that grain is. I can look at it and I can try and make an assessment, but I don't know if that is that excellent grain or is that poor quality grain that's actually unsafe for consumption. And so there's a lot of information that testing can reveal that could be potentially allow you to sell for a higher market, for a higher price. So we have a market linkages service as well, where because we work with at all stages of the value chain, that we know the millers and we understand this miller is looking for this quality, and we know which type of producers can supply them. So you can link as well. And so this is the challenge we're trying to do. We're fully commercial, and this is the challenge we're trying to solve. And let's see how long we can keep going.
Yeah. I mean, just as I guess what would you call this, a disclosure. So this technology is actually used successfully in a couple of IFC projects actually in Rwanda. So there is that endorsement. But anyway, that's still not going to spare you from a difficult question in the next round. Right, last but not least, Peter, who, as I said before, is an author in addition to being a technologist. Anyway, let's start off with the technology, and we can deal with the books later.
Definitely, and thank you very much. We are one of those technologies where our standards for our product is well known. And I'll tell you for free that everybody in this room uses our standard daily without knowing who is behind it. So 3 years ago, we decided to come open so that everybody understands who is behind this technology. Backwards. GS1 means one global standard. We are a not-for-profit organization. We are based in 119 countries globally, with the global office based in Brussels, Belgium, but we have a member organization, one of which is GS1 Kenya, which I manage. We speak one language, we see one vision, and we act as one company. So, what do we do? I would say around 50 years ago, we began our trade in the retail business because it was so difficult to track and trace the business which was coming up. At the time, the supermarket, the hypermarkets were coming in and nobody could control the stocks. But with time, we realized actual retail is not really where we're supposed to be. So we moved in each and every sector in this world. You name it, you find our technology there. Healthcare is one of the biggest things. And for around quite some time, we always believed that we could handle healthcare by using the truck. But we realized problem in healthcare actually originate from somewhere else. And one of that is food. And that's why we are taking keen interest in food safety and agribusiness. To help you understand this, let me give you a few statistics. Globally, we have more than 20 companies use our standards. More than 200 million, actually 300 million by last year, of SKUs, or products that can be tracked. 30 million of that actually is shipping, transporting goods from one place to another place. Another standard, which we use on a daily basis. more than 800,000 locations globally have been identified using GS1 standards. And every single day, there's more than 10 billion bits, what I'll call GS1 licenses or codes, cheating, which we use every day. And that's why I say all of us are here, because you go to the supermarket, you go to a pharmacy, you go to anywhere else, you always find that barcode there. That is a system, not a license. We don't sell them, but it's a license. They are legal documents which are provided for and they stand for this product anywhere in the world. They're recognized. So how do we handle this? We do this by collaboration with the sectors, understand the problem they're facing, and work together as a team to create it work. So basically, in short, that's what GS1 does.
Great. A bit mysterious, I felt, but anyway, I guess more will be revealed later. Right, so we've set the scene. We've had, if I just recap, I hope everyone will be paying attention, but in case you momentarily weren't paying attention, we have the cool box and value addition. You have farm to feed. You have direct air capture of CO2 and links to cooling. We have aflatoxin detection at the decentralized level. And we have the mysterious GS1. So what we're now going to do is have a quick, so if you were paying attention at the beginning, what I said was, often there are incredible technologies, and all of these sound to me to be very compelling. But that's where the challenges begin. Because how do we get from the really amazing technology to that mainstream status? It sounds like the mysterious GS1 is already there, but for the others at least, let me ask you each in turn to consider some of those things I said at the beginning. And I think the ones I want to focus on are affordability, I think is one, and that can include the upfront cost, because is that a deterrent? So how accessible is this financially for your mainstream mechanic, as an example? And then the second dimension is, are you experiencing positive scaling? And what do you see, how would you overcome the scaling challenge? So it's going to be the same question for all of you, so at least I'm further down the chain, you've got more to think about it, but Panina's going to be right in the hot seat right now. So affordability and scaling, how will your technologies deal with these two challenges? And actually, I've just picked those two because they're some of the main ones. But if you feel there's other particular challenges like legal disputes with IP owners and stuff like that, you can also bring that into the mix. But Panina, over to you then. How are you going to meet those challenges? And maybe you can say something about how much scaling you're achieving even now. Do you have a microphone?
I think I'm not good enough.
No, but they want to record it because then it's going to be internationally broadcast on CNN.
Yeah, okay, and thank you for that question. So I think, Mark, that you have mentioned about affordability of the technologies we are all championing on. And as I mentioned in my introduction, of course, being at the research level, we are trying many innovations. And I pointed out about the CoolBot technology, which we have been pioneering, of course, and I'm happy that the lobby to mention that name. Professor Jane Abuko, she is here from the University of Nairobi, and she has also been working on that technology, and we have been partnering with her on that, as well as a team in Uganda. And one of the things that you find, of course, for example, the CoolBot technology, I won't say that it's very affordable to the small-scale farmers, who I said from the word go, our focus beneficiaries for these technologies. So the approach we are thinking of and the approach we are adopting for this technology is working with farmers who are aggregated together, farmers in farmer groups, or cooperative and all that. So we put these farmers in farmer groups, then we can have the CoolBot technology for them, or they can have a CoolBot technology. So how they use this technology is that they can have an aggregation center. So they get their commodities, and then they can put in the aggregation center, and if they have a buyer who's coming to take the technology, who's coming to take their produce, is able to access it from a common point. So that has really been beneficial in terms of adoption of this technology. However, I want to say that we are still in a level where we are still struggling to scale up this technology. And one of the things, and the researchers in this room will bear me witness, is that you find that we all scale down to financing. You find that you have this nice idea, you have this technology, but we don't have really the financial muscles to scale these technologies. And there we are always looking for collaboration, especially these private-public partnership. If we can partner with the private sector or people who are willing to help us scale this technology, that's a really a welcomed idea. But yes, we are making efforts in scaling the technology, and we are seeing the efforts of taking up the technology.
Okay.
Yes, I think there was a second question.
No, it's just about the scaling.
Okay.
Related. Okay, Claire, over to you.
Yes, and before I just hand this off to I think I mentioned this in my introduction. The other thing I've seen really very beneficial in technology we are championing is cooperating the technology also with the end users of the technology. Because the limitation I've seen in adoption of the technology, we can come up with a very nice technologies, but the end users are not part of the process. They don't know how to use the technology, and we take it to them.
Yes.
You find that they really struggle to take up the technology. And for example, if it was a project, after the project is done and you leave your technology there, no one is willing to take it up. But if you have been working with the end beneficiaries of the technology, even if you are not there, if you're in a project or you leave the technology with the end users, you find that they are motivated to take up the technology. And that has really been a good thing to focus on also when you're looking at the scaling efforts.
No, that's great. There's a phrase actually when you're doing product development called product out, which is where the geniuses who came up with it think, I've made this thing, and then it goes out. And actually the right way is what you just described, which is market in, where you actually take into account what people's needs are first, and then design the product rather than having the product and showing it out. So anyway, thank you. That's great. Claire, over to you.
Yeah, so there are many challenges, of course, but I think our tech is to enable us to scale, because we used to do everything we did on Excel, and it's just not possible. So it is so central to get to a certain scale. Like, we wouldn't be able to get to the scale we are now without our tech, and now we're making it more efficient so that we are prepared for the next phase of growth.
At what scale are you at? Yeah.
So in terms of revenue, in terms of how many farmers,
Yeah, maybe
in
number
terms
of farmers.
So we have 6,000 farmers on the platform, and we sell to hotels and restaurants. So we have about 100 hotels and restaurants actively on the platform. They're more onboarded than are dormant. We don't source from 6,000 farmers. Those 6,000 farmers have been able to reach our platform through the app, because we have a farmer app. So just in terms of what we have in tech, we have a farmer app bespoke that we built. We have a bespoke ERP that we built for our company, and we have an e-commerce platform. We all build these solutions because we couldn't find exactly what we needed, because we were so this food loss, and that's novel still, unfortunately, that we needed grade changes and being able to use different grades and all of that. So in our organization, we have high adoption of tech. The farmer app, of course, we struggle with app adoption because we're dealing with people that are not tech savvy or are illiterate or those kind of things. So we build a USSD as well next to it, and our app can be used offline as well, and then same as online. So you have to be incredibly innovative to understand the user, and the app has to just be incredibly light, no text. It has to be multiple languages, because if you have a very heavy app, you can't use it in rural areas. So there's so many things to think about how this user is using the app. And of course, I think what we forget, there's like a product market fit that we have to get to. So why do farmers really want to go on our app? Well, they want market access, and we want to give them business. That's number one. So they will come to sell their products. And then you can sell additional services like, okay, here's the weather, or here are inputs or fertilizers, all those kind of things. So scalability for us is we wouldn't be able to onboard 6,000 farmers without technology. It is essential, knowing exactly their geolocation, which, like, we have an entire database, and collecting more data. On affordability, our app is free for them because it's good for our business, right? If we have farmer stickiness and they can get seeds through the farmer app, they can get better yields. So for us, it's really important that our service is entirely free for them to use, because our revenue is on the customer side, which is our hotels, restaurants, and things like that. So then again, internally, to develop tech is very expensive. So that brings me to the third challenge, is attracting funding in this market for agriculture is very hard. There's still a lot of investors that really see tech, fintech as sort of the place to invest. And ag is seen as slow, low returns. So it's very hard. You need to really attract impact investors. We received some funding from IFC, so through the Tech Emerge program. But there aren't a lot of early stage investors. So a founder doing a startup is a full-time role is fundraising. And you have to know everyone in the game who is funding ag startups and really convince them that ag is a commercial opportunity rather than a charitable opportunity, sometimes it feels like. So I think that is one of the challenges we need to be speaking about, how to really improve ag, is how to attract catalytic funding to this sector and convince people that this is a commercial opportunity rather than only an impact opportunity.
Well, it sounds like you definitely deal with those challenges, affordability and scale and so on. Okay, great. Over to Nadia.
You said actually a lot of things that go through my head, but I'm going to also add something that is maybe important, is the practicality. I think with dry ice there comes that factor in, especially when we're talking about transport. With farmers that I saw or work with people that transport, I can't even say it, transport the chicken after slaughtering in buckets to the market. So obviously their dry ice can play a role because they use just a small amount. And then there's also the question of contamination. With dry ice there's no bacterial contamination because dry ice basically evaporates and there's no water left behind. So in terms of affordability, obviously we're talking about the most expensive technology in the room, I'm guessing here, but the technology is mainly there to solve the climate crisis, and what we are looking at here is utilization with many co-benefits. So obviously this first machine is going to be a little more expensive, but as we come down, I believe that right now you can get dry ice here for 180, 170 shillings per kilo, and we are aiming to give it out at the same price. And it's actually going to be possible because dry ice adds so much value to the product. And what else? And then there's also the methane part of the whole equation where one can apply for carbon credits. We have also looked into solutions where, not solutions, but situations where we use half of the capture for carbon credits to sequester, and then use the other half for the dry ice to make it affordable on the long run. And as far as affordability for farmers, obviously it has to work out. Like I said, we are aiming for the same price as the local CO2 release here right now. And with the pay-as-you-go basis, I don't see any problems in that. And yeah, I think that's it. Oh, scalability. Obviously, I also said it earlier that we're looking into containerized units that we do quickly, and that right there should help with that problem. And obviously, I think education will play a big role actually in scalability also, to get the word out and to educate people on how to use it. I used it when I was here in March with farmers, and I saw a lot of, although I educated them, I saw a lot of funny things happening. So I think education is a big deal in this whole thing.
Great, thank you. Okay, Ahmed.
Thank you. I think just on affordability first, what we're trying to do with Afla Kiosk is that basically testing, there can be many different levels, right? And so originally when the technology around testing was introduced, it would be extremely expensive to do these tests. Like actually, if you're trying to find, for example, the levels of aflatoxin, and you want to know at 100% certainty, to run those tests is very expensive, takes a very long time, and but you can be 100% certain what the level is, and that will cost you $300 and take 5 days to get the results. But then there's very simple technology that can just tell you that it's safe, unsafe, and it won't tell you what levels anything is, and that's extremely cheap, but you don't know, there's no kind of like, I can be pretty certain that this is safe to eat, but I don't know how safe, let's say. And then there's the in-between level, which we operate at, where we can give you about a 95% accuracy rate that this is safe and this is the level that it's at. And so this kind of mid-range technology is newer, but can be very powerful, because there you get quite accurate data, and then that data can be used for other things. Now, so we're much cheaper than traditional testing, which was a few $100s, where our tests are about $30, but we're also a little bit more expensive than the cheapest testing, which can come in at about $10. The other thing is that with food safety and testing, I guess everyone here is familiar with the phrase, what you don't know won't kill you, right? And I think with food safety testing, when you start, what you know but could become the problem. That if I know my food is not safe, that could kill my business, because now what's going to happen? And so we have this challenge where we're trying to scale in a system where there are rules, that there's regulations, there's minimum standards, but enforcement of those standards, everyone's afraid. What if I enforce those standards? How's that going to affect smallholder farmers? How's that going to affect them? It's going to kill the markets. And I was kind of reflecting on this as I was preparing for this panel discussion. I mean, a very simple kind of analogy could be like, imagine you're in a system where roads have just been introduced, so you suddenly have very fast cars, and you have no rules on that. Of course, with those with fast cars, they go extremely fast, and it works very well, but it's unsafe for everybody, and the market doesn't really work properly as well. And because you don't really have the right type of signals, it's not worth investing. It's not worth my time to really understand the quality of my good, because if I go down that path and no one else is going down that path, I'm the one who's going to be penalized for it. But I think that if with the right type of, let's say, if we move the kind of the discussion from enforcement rather to trying to enable upgrading and then gradually rolling out technology like testing, I think the market could significantly grow. The other thing that we're trying to solve then is that there is, like in everything, there is a whole value chain as well, and that's that generally if there isn't this steady demand for testing in markets, and I only do it when I'm told I have to do it, then the kind of the value chain and the supply of tests don't really exist, and then it becomes a chicken and egg as well. It's always going to be expensive. So this is where I think we're kind of early movers in a space where people don't really want to test too much, but they'll only test if they're forced to test. But we're trying to show that through information you can actually create value. So we're not an enforcement agency. We don't get involved in enforcement. What we try and do is bring information to our customers, and then use that information as power, and there should be a value in that. The final thing just is that with you can then potentially receive a higher value for your goods if it is a higher quality. But the market here, let's say, and this is the kind of converse thing about food safety testing. If I'm in the milling sector selling to humans, food to us as people, that the consequences of me selling unsafe food to any of you in the audience is very little. If I can get that to, if I can sell Armin porridge that's unsafe, I'm going to leave that porridge, and in 50 years' time he's going to die of cancer. But but I've made my 50 years, and it's never going to be traced back to me. It doesn't matter. What's really interesting about food safety is that animals, if I'm in the animal feed sector, I actually have a much stronger interest in food safety than if I'm selling to humans. Because, wait a minute, my chickens are dying and I'm in the business of trying to sell chickens. And so what we have to find is where the market for testing is, and then really hit them. And I think when we started, we were very naive. We thought, if you're selling grain, then you're going to want to know the quality of your grain. And that's actually, I don't want to know the quality of my grain. And if you're selling to humans, then, say humans, people, and then it's going to be that at least someone will care about that. But then it's like, but if you start trying that, then there's not going to be enough food for all of us to eat. But in the animal feed sector, it's not the animal feed producers that necessarily want to know, it's the animal feed users that want to know, because it affects. So where testing becomes a node in the value chain, then we can start there and review. So that's the kind of area that we're targeting at the moment.
So finally, Peter. So in your case, it seems that those affordability issues are kind of hidden from the consumer. Is that a correct assumption? So how do you stand against all the other standards we've been hearing about this morning, food safety, or is it the same? And how does what you're doing actually help? I guess it's helping traceability.
Well, I think that's a very good question. The question is how expensive is the system? It's a question we get all the time. How is the system affordable? How can it be scaled? Let me start by saying something maybe out of what you expect. Traceability in itself is expensive. Extremely expensive if you want to implement it the way it's supposed to be. Only multinationals, because we dealt with them, can afford. SMEs and maybe farmers cannot. They will not even attempt. And that's the first question they ask us. How expensive is this thing? But we usually laugh and tell them, look here, you'll be so shocked. Because in GS1, we believe in one thing. We don't discuss prices, neither do we put a tender for you to give us systems. We are a member organization where we sit down with the sector, even if they're small-scale farmers, to agree, how do you want us to do this? Then a system is created. We only pay annual membership fee. And to some extent, that membership fee is not paid upfront. We believe if we are going to put our standard in your product, it should be in cents. In our case, for example, if I give two examples like Kenya breweries, they do not feel the cost of putting our standards in their products. And it is limitless. They can go as many calls they want in a year. If you come to a small scale producer of possibly chips, somebody making 1,000 items a month, basically the cost of putting barcode on that product will be less than 10 cents. So that's how we looked at it. So how are we able to make it more affordable to everybody? It's because we create standards which are used by people who want to come near us. If they are not able to pay for it, we say, when you sell, if you are selling, then this is the percentage you will pay, which is very minimal to sustain the system because the system helps you, not us. Scalability. I'll give an example. Apparel. And for me, apparel will be a waste. We make clothes every single day, different patterns, different legs. Maybe 1,000, maybe one shirt. And this person who is doing it have unlimited costs to produce today. Which means if today I make 100 clothes, tomorrow I make 100 million clothes. On the same platform, same standard, no change. So they do not fail. There's no limit to what you can do by increasing your production at any given time you want. So we're both affordable and we're scalable at the same time.
Great, thank you. Right, I received a signal remotely from the organisers through some strange telepathic power, which indicates that we're kind of out of time. I was wanting to have some audience Q&A, so I'm really sorry we haven't done that. But, oh, okay, then I think there's a sort of...
Try Q&A, 5 minutes.
Try Q&A, 5 more minutes. Okay, let's not get killed in the rush. I can see, okay, man in the blue jumper over here, and then you're also in the blue jumper next. Please introduce yourself as well.
Okay, I think I'm audible enough.
Well, it's being recorded,
So my question, my name is Gervasi. I'm from Unilever. So my question is to Peter, because we're talking about the barcoding, and food safety traceability is very, very important. And one of the challenges is when we're doing manufacturing, you know, we're doing the same traceability is meant to be done the way it's supposed to be. You should know each and every ingredient that makes up that particular product. So my question to you is, in your membership, have you ever thought of partnering with one of the members, the organization, like if I know you're using the JS1, to have like a traceability system that uses barcode within the manufacturing setup, so that when now we have that final product, when there's any recall or any issue, traceability can be done in a split second, because you go into the coding system and then you get what made up of this particular product.
Can I answer that?
You can, yeah.
Are you from Unilever or Unilever Main?
We don't have tea nowadays.
Oh, it changed. In our system, I think we still have that. But let me surprise you that 4 years ago, Unilever president was our chairman at the board at the global level. That means how we tech manufacturers. Okay? What you are asking for, it is there. It is for you as a Unilever to do it. I believe and I know our technical team was approaching Unilever for implementing the 2G, which actually will do what you're trying to talk about. And we had system already put in place. I'm waiting for your people to tell us, go ahead, let's implement it.
Very good. Over here. Oh, I think we're going to have to.
Yes, I'll be very brief. My name is Evan Romshana.
Yeah.
I work with Kabi. I'm a scientist. I work on nature-based solutions for pest control. My question is to Claire. On the platform, I think you kind of talk about how farmers allow to get to the platform. How do you ensure quality and safety? Quality in terms of what the restaurants are those want, but also safety in terms of, for instance, pesticide risk or business use of the commodity. How do you ensure you know the performance? Thank you.
Yeah, so there's a couple of, so we have quality checks in our process because we're building a supply chain, right? So in terms of quality, we're talking about aesthetic quality, right? So what the restaurants want, one, it always has to be fresh. There's no question, right? So what we then talk about is aesthetic quality. So we have control points in the supply chain that we're building. Starts at the farm level. We have an aggregation center we call supply hubs. They are farm to feed trained people in the field, knowing all the farmers. So that's when it leads to our warehouse. At the warehouse, we have another control point where we check the quality at dispatching, because anything can go wrong in the warehouse, at dispatching another one, and then at releasing at the customer. So we have 4 control points on aesthetic quality, and because we do the different gradings, every grade has a aesthetic description, so that things are not rejected purely because they're small or big or broken. A broken carrot is as fresh, for example. So that's one thing. On the safety issue, which is really important for us as well. I mean, we talked about it a lot, and I think to your point, what you were saying, it's hard to like put tests on our farmers because then it's punitive, and I don't really believe in that. And then they would just they have to put someone off the platform and things like that. So we really believe in capacity building. So what we're doing at the moment, we're forging partnerships with like the SME, World Veg Program, partners that do capacity building of farmers, that supply the inputs for the farmers that we know have been trained. And these organizations just provide the inputs, they don't provide the market. So that's us. But we, in our database and our farmer app, that's really important. So that's how we are building the food safety to make sure that we're partnering with those who are specialized on our ground, and that we can also trace this farmer has been trained on X, Y, Z, uses these inputs, and then build it up. So we're also backwards in building the farmer app, so that we know when they planted, what inputs they're using. And that's again tech, because you can't do that manually or over the phone. I hope that helps.
Right, I can see there's at least 4 or 5 questions, and we're already into the coffee break. So look, I think the fairest thing to do is, we've had a wonderful introduction to some great technologies. We have the coffee break straight after this. So all of you 5 people who are queuing up to ask questions, we can't fit it in now, but I don't want to just choose one of you and leave 4 of you disappointed. So you can all meet up with these panelists at the coffee break and ask your question, if that's okay. So if you can now please just join me in thanking this wonderful... we all definitely learned a lot, and there's lots of useful technologies clearly out there, ready to be scaled, and please get in touch with these guys directly. So I understand there's coffee somewhere downstairs. There's going to be coffee downstairs, and then the next session is downstairs in the main room. So thank you once again. See you downstairs. Yeah.
Thank you, Alan.